In this exercise, we're going to introduce a spot color to our illustration, and I'm also going to show you how to work inside the separations preview panel. I've created a new variation on this document called revampedcolors.ai, found inside the 11 printing folder. So if you've been working along with me, you'll have to go ahead and close the document you're working inside of now and open this one instead if you want to get the same results. And what's going on here is I went ahead and took these purple robots, which you'll find on the second, third, and fourth artboards. So the robots that have this sort of lilac color inside of them. And I went ahead and linked that color to this global color swatch here inside the swatches panel called Mild Violet. Now let's say I want to go ahead and switch out that color for a spot color. For some reason, the client, they're really particular about this specific shade of purple that they're using. And they want to be locked down to Pantone 266C, which is a shade of violet. And that's a pre-mixed ink, incidentally. Instead of being a combination of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black mixed together, we're going to add a fifth ink to the mix, which is going to increase the cost of the job. No way around that, but the client's willing to pay. So to access a Pantone spot color, you drop down to the lower left corner of the swatches panel, click on this little folder icon, and then you choose this guy right there, Color Books. And then presumably you would go with Pantone Solid Coated. You definitely wouldn't go with any of the process options because those aren't spot colors. You'd go with one of the solid options, and I assume you'll be printing the coated stock. But in any case, one of these solid libraries would be your choice here in the States anyway, where the Pantone library is quite popular. Anyway, I already happen to know the mix for this specific Pantone color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to Mild Violet. Notice nothing is selected here inside the illustration. And I'll double click on it in order to bring up the swatch options dialog box. And because global is turned on, I've gone ahead and linked this color to the various shades of lilac that are found inside both the solid filled and the gradient filled portions of these central robots. All right, so I'm going to switch out the swatch name to Pantone 266C. It's very important, by the way, that you get the naming convention right. If you're going to create a spot color on a fly like this, you need to make sure to name it properly. So that would be Pantone spelled out space 266 space C, like so. I'll switch the color type to spot color, and I'm going to change the color values like so. 79 for C, 90 for magenta, and 0 for the two others. Now, it's not essential that you get these colors right. That may sound weird that you have to get the name right, but you don't have to get the color values right. The only purpose of the color values is to preview the Pantone color on screen. It has nothing to do with how it's going to print. It's the name that determines the ink that gets used by your printer. All right, then turn on the preview checkbox and you'll see those lilac colors brighten up fairly significantly actually throughout the illustration. Now go ahead and click OK in order to apply that new spot color. Now to see how that spot color is interacting with the process inks inside of our illustration, go up to the window menu and choose the separations preview command. Notice that it has no keyboard shortcut, which is actually kind of a relief because none of these keyboard shortcuts that are assigned to the panels make any daggum sense. Anyway, go ahead and choose separations preview. Brings up this panel right there, and notice you can't do anything with it. You can't turn on or off any of the eyeballs. The notion here, by the way, is that you're able to look at your inks. You're able to see each one of your plates of ink independently, which is actually a really great predictive tool when you're trying to figure out how your illustration is going to commercially reproduce. However, at this point, the panel is unusable. You have to turn on this guy right there, the overprint preview. Now, we'll examine the overprint preview function in more detail in the next exercise, but for now, just turn it on. It's one of those options that ought to be on all the time inside of Illustrator, but it's off by default. And now you can actually access the options here inside the separations preview panel. For example, you could go ahead and Alt-click or Option-click on the eyeball in front of Pantone 266C, and then you'll see just those objects that are going to print in that Pantone spot color. And then you could also add black into the mix if you wanted to, and you're going to have this sort of monochrome piece of artwork. Actually, a lot of the heavy lifting where the color is concerned inside of artboards 2, 3, and 4 is handled now by this spot color. So we're getting a pretty good sense of how these various plates of ink are going to mix, and then you can add in the various other color ingredients as well. Now, this is not going to affect how your illustration prints, by the way. You're just affecting the way the illustration previews here on screen. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the other colors as well. Notice magenta, yellow, black, and Pantone 266C mix to form this really wonderfully warm image right here. And then we can go ahead and add cyan to finish off the mix. In the next exercise, I'll show you how to use this panel to troubleshoot weak blacks inside your illustration.